Hello and welcome to this new feature review with Cloud Design Box on our new student assignment search tool and a few other new features that are coming out to Cloud Design Box customers who are using Office 365, SharePoint and Teams. I've got on the call with me today Darren, our Operations Manager. Hi Darren.
Hi Tony.
And we're going to go through the benefits of some of these new tools and have a quick discussion around those, and then we'll do a demo of those new features. So some of the challenges for schools using Teams assignments out of the box is it can be really difficult to get a picture of how students are doing in the school. You may not know what assignments a student has. You may not know if they've completed them on time or not, unless you're their class teacher for that particular assignment. So it can be quite limiting, if you're somebody who needs a good overview of that student's progress over time. So that's one of the challenges we found that schools were facing. And sometimes there's limited communication between staff and students. The student might say they've got no homework set, but actually they have, or the other way around, they might actually be overwhelmed and it might be causing some wellbeing issues that they've got too many assignments listed. So as a leader at the school, how do you know who's got what set? And it can be quite challenging and difficult.
Now, Tony, I know that sometimes we certainly get asked, because we create class teams, we get asked to inject heads of year into 500 classes, and can we take the deputy head and the head teacher and put them in all the classes? And that's a really bad idea, just in order to kind of give that overview that we're talking about. So what we've tried to do here is find a way of giving those leaders access to the student information about assignments, but without actually adding them into a million classes.
Yes, exactly. So we do get technical questions like that. Can you inject us into lots of different teams? But like Darren said, that's a really bad idea. It creates lots of noise for that particular teacher. They're still having to micromanage each individual class that students in, so it's not really of any real benefit. It just creates more teacher workload. And these are some of the staff that I guess need to be kept in the loop when it comes to assignment set for students. So we've got heads of year, registration group teachers, pastoral, intervention. So there's a number of different teachers who are going to find this tool useful. And this tool is available to all teaching staff. You don't need any special permission levels in our system. It'll be available to you if you're a member of the teaching staff. You can look up any student and just see their progress with their assignments.
So Tony, how about if we take a look at those roles again in a moment, but if you show us what it is first, and then we'll come back, we'll loop back around, and we'll have a think about what this would mean for a head of year, for a form tutor, or for somebody with a pastoral or even a safeguarding responsibility.
Yeah, so let's jump into a demo. So I'm in my SharePoint intranet. You'll have something very similar set up for your school. And what you'll find is if you're a member of the teaching staff, when you go to open up the menu, you'll see this new link here called Student Assignment Search. And if you click on that link, it'll take you straight into that Student Assignment Search tool. And inside here, I can look up an individual student. So I might look up Susan. And what you'll see is it's automatically filtered to only show the current assignments, so the stuff that's due in the future. And I can see if they've submitted it, if it's been marked, or if it's still due. If I take off this filter, you'll see it shows me all the historical information as well. So I can actually see there was some overdue work a few months ago that they still haven't completed. So I get the whole view, not just from the history classes, but the German classes, the physics classes, right across the school. Even if I don't teach that class, I can still see what homework was set for that student and if it's been returned or not in time. So very simple tool to use. You can just look at the student and quickly get a good overview of what work has been set and when it's due.
So thinking about those roles, let's say you are a form tutor. So obviously a form tutor, you've got your 25 to 30 odd kids that you look after. And you're going to have a very close relationship with those. You see them every morning. You might see them twice a day for reg. You're probably you're going to keep a close eye on those students and make sure they're happy all the time. So that might mean making sure they're doing their homework and they're not falling behind, and they've fallen into that pattern of just not getting their homework done. Or it could be the other thing, that you're looking and you're thinking, do you know what, Susan's got a lot of work this week. What's going on there? Especially for kind of your maybe your Key Stage 4 students, where there's a lot of coursework happening, and that might be set through assignments. And you've just got to make sure that Susan is not drowning in all that work, because you can do things to help with that. You can talk to individual members of staff, and you can try and perhaps allow more time maybe for Susan to complete a particular assignment, or you can just help with the planning anyway, so that maybe English and maths aren't both setting work that has to be handed in at exactly the same time. So there's that kind of cross-curricular planning. And then taking that a step wider is working with things like the head of year role. So if you're now the head of year 9, head of year 10, you're obviously responsible for more students, but there might be some students that you're particularly concerned about. That they might have had issues with their attendance previously, and you're tracking that. There might be issues with them falling behind on their homework, not getting their homework done, not completing their coursework. So you might have it in your head, or written down in your calendar to specifically check on that student now and again. And this system will allow you to do that really easily without having to actually go into each of the classrooms to get that information.
So that does give you sort of the basic information of what workload they've got, when it was set, when it's due. One question that we've been asked while trialing this is, can we dig a little deeper? Can we see if that homework's been marked, what the grades were, what the comments were by the teacher, just so we can get a good feel of how well the student's doing. So that is something that is coming in the next few weeks, and here's a quick preview of it. So you will be able to drill down into one of those assignments, and you'll be able to see if the work's been marked or not. You'll be able to see the actual points that the teachers assigned to that piece of work, and you can see the feedback for that particular student. So I can see what feedback the teacher's given them. You can also see a bit more about the assignment, what it's about, so you can see what the instructions were. And if you need to speak to the teacher about that particular assignment for that student, there's a button there to send an email and also to start a Teams chat with them. So you can keep, the teacher who's setting that work in the loop. If there's any issues with that particular student, there's just those communication tools there available for you.
That's going to be really helpful. I can imagine this kind of thing coming out during parents' evenings. You'll be there as the form tutor, the reg tutor, and so that you've got something quite interesting to show parents. You can actually go in and say, these are the kinds of assignment that your son or your daughter's been working on recently. This is what's coming up in the future, and as you can see, they're doing really well. They're handing in all the work on time, and they're getting good grades as well. And you can even drill down into the kinds of specific work that's been set, so that parents get a sense of what that is. It's going to be different in secondary schools and primary schools. I think in secondary schools, people generally would have some kind of idea maybe of what their child's doing, for geography or French or whatever. I know that as a parent of a child in primary school, it's quite difficult sometimes, especially with the early years, to actually know what they're working on. So again, that might be something you can do. You can actually, as a teacher, go through and say, so these are the things your child's been working on, and it might be literacy, it might be reasoning or whatever. And you can actually, it's just a really easy way to show the parents the kinds of work that's been set to those students, perhaps in class, if not for homework.
Yeah, so you could use that on the parents' evening. So there's lots of different uses you might think for using that tool. So it'd be great to get your feedback once you start using that. Let us know how you're getting on with it. There are some other new features, and these are mainly for your IT admins. So we'll go through some of those changes now as well. They've been released around the same time a couple of weeks ago. So one of the new pages we've got is the school data page, and this allows you to see what data we're processing. So when we create subject sites, when you originally did the onboarding with us, we picked certain subject codes to exclude, so we didn't create subject sites for them. There might have been subjects that you actually decided to merge together. So for example, you might have wanted a single subject site for English instead of two different ones for your English language and your English literature. So you may have picked some mergers, and it might have been years ago when you originally worked with us to onboard the school. And sometimes it might not be ultra clear what setup you have, what configuration you have. So this is about making it much more transparent. So you might find that actually some of the names in your MIS went great for some of the subjects. So instead of rename them in the MIS for some reason, maybe changing, it might have affected some other systems. We decided to rename the subjects inside SharePoint. So you'll have a record of what we've renamed those subjects to.
Yeah, so and a good
yeah,
example of that would be, if you, for example, if you got Sims, I see this quite a lot, infotech for information technology. We don't have to present something called infotech to the kids, even though it does sound quite cool. We could actually call that information technology or computing or anything you wanted, really.
Yeah, and we also give you a list of all the subjects we process in your data. So if you think a subject's missing, you can always look at that data and just see if it's in there. So it's a technical tool. We're still here to support you. You can still email our support team, and we'll look at that data with you in more detail. But it gives you that overview of what's being processed, what we've got. And the other aspect of this is your year grouping. So those year group libraries that we create in the subject sites, those can be grouped together. So you might have, for example, year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10. You might have key stage 3, key stage 4, key stage 5, or you might have grouped them to group the years together in a different way. So it might have been key stage 3, GCSE, A level. Entirely up to you how you originally planned that out with us. But again, this makes it transparent so you can see what you've got set up. Some of these can be quite difficult to change, so there's no option to change it here, but you can view it and then you can email us to discuss any changes that you want to make to that setup. And here's a quick screenshot of what that data looks like. So on the left hand side, you can see that we've got some excludes in here, Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. But what you can actually see is this particular school was set up a long time ago, and although we excluded that subject at the time, it is no longer in the data source. So it says the subject no longer exists in the data source. So whatever we excluded at that point in time no longer exists there. So it
So
gives you a
it
bit
might be the case, for example, that back in the day you had a subject, your timetable called withdrawal or intervention, and that's just not in your data, and it's just not a thing you do anymore. So you can contact us, and then we can just get that removed and unclutter that view if you like.
yeah. And I guess the same for the mergers and the renames as well. So you can see we've got some renames in here. We've also got subjects that are merged together. So the ones where you can see the multiple subject codes on the right hand side, that's where we've merged together a number of different subjects from your MIS into a single SharePoint subject resource site.
And
So
this comes in when you move MIS as well. So let's say you're moving from one MIS to another, whatever that may be. You'll have particular subjects that would have existed in the previous system. Those will be different subjects, different names, different codes in the new one. But we can very quickly with this come in and arrange it so that you don't see the join. Basically, we can keep the old subject names and codes if you want to, and take the data from the new MIS and put that on top, so that it's a very seamless process. And you can check that in this page just to make sure you're happy with how that's coming together.
and you could use this, just for your information purposes. So if you think, well, why haven't we got a textile subject site? We can look in here. I can see the TX code for subject for textiles, and I can see it's merged into design and technology. So if you did want a separate textile site, that's absolutely fine. Just contact us and we'll remove it from that merge. And this is a quick example of the year groups as well. So you can see I've defined different year groups within the system. So the other page, and I'll show you a quick demo of both of these features soon. So the new SDS status page, this is only for customers that we've moved over onto the cloud provisioning system. And we've done that for about 40% of the customers so far. We will be in contact with you when your school's ready to migrate to the new system. And one of the benefits of processing the data in the cloud, it means that you get some real-time access to really important information, which was difficult to get access to previously. So for example, seeing what time we last received the data from your MIS system, the last time we sent that data to Microsoft School Data Sync, and also any unmatched users. And that's the big one that we find with schools is we need to know who the person is in the school MIS system and who they are in Azure AD. And one of the main ways we do that is by student email address, but it could be the employee ID. If you're using some sort of tool like Salamander to create your users, you might use that. So occasionally there might be a user that is unmatched, so they don't get access to their teams and you end up logging a support ticket with us. Now you can still do that, you can still log support tickets and we'll help you figure out that problem. But this will give you a nice view of a list of all the users who are unmatched, and you can have a go at fixing it yourself. And if you're still stuck, you can obviously give us a call. We can help you with that. So if it makes it nice and simple for you to quickly visit this page, see all the unmatched users, fix them all by correcting their email address or whatever it is that is not matching them correctly. And then this will automatically fix overnight when the automation runs. And you should see the list get shorter as you fix those problems. And this is only accessible to school managers, just like the other screen we looked at. But it's only available to provisioning customers in the cloud at the moment. So hopefully you'll be moved onto that if you're not already on it. And this is what the page looks like. I'll have a look at a live view of this page shortly so you can see what it looks like in the portal. But you can see we've got the SDS sync status, so which profile we're connecting to, when the data was last received, and when the sync last happened. So I can see in this example, the data was last received from the MIS 3 days ago. So that might indicate a problem on the server with the MIS, with the integration software. And you can always contact us at the support address, which is on that page as well, if you think there is an issue. And then we've got a list of the user errors below it, so we can see which users are not matched, and there should be an indication of why they're not matched. So in this case, it's no user could be found with the employee ID in Azure AD. And that should give you an indication of why that user isn't matched. Typically, it'll probably be your email address. So the email address in the MIS, the main work email address, has to match with the email address or the UPN inside Azure AD. So that should give you an indication of who's not matching. Better go and fix that. And then when it refreshes overnight, that list will get much shorter. Hopefully, you won't have any items on there once you've got everybody sorted. So I'll just jump out into a quick demo of that. So I'm just going to go into our development site, show you an example of what this will look like with data. So across the top of your menu, you've got all these different options for different features that we provide. One of the new options is data. When you come to this page, if you have our cloud provisioning solution, you'll come to this page where you can select one of the options. If you're not on the cloud system yet, you should go straight into the view subjects and year groups page. And this will show you that overview of which subjects are excluded, which ones are merged and renamed, and a list of all the subjects that we process. You can see how many classes are in each of those subject codes. And then you can see the year groupings at the bottom as well.
So just if I've understood that correctly, Tony, if you're not currently using the cloud provisioning service, you can still come in here and see what subjects have been merged and excluded and the years, and you can still see all that stuff now. but you won't be able to see the data about, you know, whether we've pushed something into school data sync until we've moved you to the cloud provisioning system.
Yeah, as soon as you're on the cloud provisioning system, you'll see when you come to the data page, instead of go straight into that subject view, you'll get this choice, the two options, and you can decide to go into the SDS status page as well. And this will give me a good overview of when the data was last received from the MIS 4 days ago, when it was last synced. Normally these will both be, you know, below 24 hours. And then I can see a list of all the user errors. So in this particular school, we've got a massive list of users who aren't matched. So when this user logs in, they won't see their teams because we won't know who they are in the MIS and who they are in Azure AD. So you might have a few of these that you need to tidy up. There might be some non-teaching staff who maybe you missed off originally. So you get a good indication of who's not matching. You can go back in Azure AD or in your MIS and fix those problems. And then when the sync runs again overnight and the data is received from the MIS again, that should all clear up and you'll see less errors there. But of course, you can still log a support ticket with us. We're still here to support you. This is just to give you a few tools so you can hopefully pick up on some of those issues and manage them proactively as well. So if you do have any inquiries, you've got our support email address. If you're a current customer, support@clouddesignbox.co.uk. If you're not a current customer and you want to find out more about our solutions, then you can contact our sales team by using info@clouddesignbox.co.uk, or you could just click the contact us page on the website. Thanks for your time today, Darren. And
No
thank you
worries. Cheers,
everybody for
Tony.
attending.